obviously, pre-COVID, one fight I was really looking forward to was the fight between Casimero and Inoue. Now, I'm still looking forward to this fight, and obviously, a matchup between Casimero and versus Donaire is still very compelling. And obviously, you've got two Filipinos going at it with each other, which is incredible. Also, both of them absolutely hate each other's guts, and on top of that, like, there's a lot of there's a clash of egos and personalities. Like, Casimero is the complete opposite of the way the typical Filipino fighter carries himself. I mean, if you look at like Pacquiao and Donaire, they carry themselves in a kind of like humble, graceful way. While if you look at Casimero is one of them fighters that seems a bit more brash and arrogant. And to be fair, I don't really mind that. Like, you can't always have humble fighters. It's just not entertaining for the sport. Sometimes you need villains in sports and such, and it's like in fiction as well. Everyone can't be the good guy. Like, you do sometimes need a bad guy, and you need a heel, as they call it in wrestling. So I don't really mind him having the shtick that he has, like the way he carries himself. As long as he gives me the fight and the entertainment I want, I don't really mind how he acts. As long as he's not doing really scumbag things, like, I don't mind him being a bit arrogant. Like, sometimes you need characters within the sport. But all them thoughts aside, the fight that I'm looking forward to the most is a fight between Casimero and Inoue. Both of them are 3-time world champions in 3 different weight classes. Now, obviously, I think Casimero is one of the most underrated fighters in the sport in terms of his resume. I mean, he doesn't get nowhere near the level of credit that he deserves for the level of opposition that he's fought and beaten. I mean, this guy's beaten Charlie Edwards. Charlie Edwards obviously went on to become a WBC champion. He beat Tete when Tete was on a tear. Tete at the time was like this puncher that nobody wanted to fight, and he managed to knock him out. On top of that, he's beaten Rigondeaux. Regardless of the result, I personally think Rigondeaux won that fight, but at the same time, regardless of what I think, the fact is he's got Rigondeaux's name on his record. So if you take all of that into account, and the fact that this guy's travelled literally to like 5-10 different countries to fight all around the world, and he's beaten world champions in their home turf, I think Casimero's got one of the most underrated resumes in the sport. But then you got Inoue, and I don't think Inoue's overrated. I think he's a great fighter and he deserves the hype that he's getting. But to some extent, like, a lot of people have him as a top 5 pound for pound fighter, and to be fair, in only 16 fights he's accomplished so much in his career. So like, from that perspective, you can see why a lot of people might think he's a little overhyped. But at the same time, I mean, he's accomplished all of that, and he's done it at such a young age, and he's only done it in 16 fights. So when you see that promise of potential, having him so high up on the pound for pound list, I don't believe it. Like, I think he should be number 10 on the pound for pound list. I don't agree with him being any higher than that, because he's beaten good level of opposition, but he's only had 16 fights. So I think he should be about point number 10 or something like that. He should be on the pound for pound list, but I don't think he should be top 5. I feel like, for example, Josh Taylor's probably accomplished more than Inoue, in my opinion, in terms of his resume and the fighters that he's beat. I think Josh Taylor's beaten better opposition than Inoue. Inoue has beaten good fighters, but I don't think he's got as high a number of names to be justified to be put up so high on the list, if anyone does have him on the top 5. Another fighter that I don't think deserves to be on that list, like, they deserve to be on the list, maybe top 10, but not top 5, is Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo Lopez has a good win against Richard Comey, but the high level win that he's got is against Lomachenko. But apart from that, he's not really accomplished anything else in his career. For you to be on a pound for pound list, I think you need to have had a long resume to be on that list. Like, Buster Douglas, after he beat Mike Tyson at the time, before he fought Buster Douglas, was number 1 pound for pound, which was a bit of an oddity, because if you look at heavyweights, usually the person that's on the number 1 pound for pound list is never a heavyweight, but because Mike Tyson looks so impressive and decisive in his victories, and on top of that, like, he was on top of the world, and on top of that, he had a lot of hype behind him. On top of that, he was fighting fighters that are bigger than him, and he was knocking them out. Like, usually it wasn't uncommon to see Mike Tyson in there with fighters that were like 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", and he'll be knocking them out. So even though he had a lot of hype behind him, he was usually fighting men that were like 3-4 stones bigger than him. So in a weird way, I feel like he did deserve to be on that list. But my point is this: after Buster Douglas beat him, it's not like Buster Douglas became a number 1 pound for pound fighter because he beat Mike Tyson. To be on that list, you need a resume. You can't just have one high level win. But all them points aside, I feel like Casimero and Inoue fighting each other is a huge fight. I think it's ironically, when I say Inoue's a little bit overrated, that doesn't mean he's a bad fighter. He's a great fighter, but people saying he's top 3 pound for pound is a little bit ridiculous, or top 5 pound for pound. I don't think he's done enough to get that. He's done a lot in his career, but if he beats a Casimero and then he beats several other top fighters, then I'll definitely put him on the list. But at this point in time, he's on my top 10, but not top 5 in my opinion. But all that aside, I think Casimero is one of the most underrated fighters at this point in time. I mean, he's a 3-time world champion in 3 different weight classes. I mean, and I'm not even counting his interim belts. I'm just counting his full titles. On top of that, like, he's fought all these fighters in their hometown and he's beaten them. His resume is amazing. I don't think he gets enough credit as he deserves. But at the same time, I feel like a fight between both of them would be impressive. And both of them dislike each other. And both of them have a completely different personalities as well. I think Inoue carries himself with grace and class, but he's not as arrogant as Casimero is. So yeah, taking all that into account, I'd really much look forward to them both fighting each other, and I hope the fight happens very soon. It's a fight I was very much looking forward to, and then obviously COVID-19 hit and the world has not been the same since, but hopefully they can make that fight happen, and it's a fight I really want to see. So yeah, that's my opinions on this particular fight. What's your opinions? Who do you think would win a fight between them two? For me, I think it's a true pick and fight. I'm slightly leaning towards Inoue beating Casimero, but then again, I could be falling for the hype that's around Inoue's name, because let's be real, when he fought Donaire, and obviously Donaire went on to win the title and is no mug, but when he fought Donaire I think broke his eye socket and did have him buzzed in that fight a couple of times. So I think them two fighting each other, man, I think Casimero's gonna give a bit. If Casimero beat Inoue, I would not be surprised, put it like that. Like, Casimero's got the experience. He's a 3-time world champion in 3 different weight classes in his own right. I think both of them are like, I think it's a true 50-50 pick and fight. A lot of people think Inoue is just going to run through Casimero, but regardless of what you think about him from a personality point of view, Casimero is a world-class, top elite fighter. He's just not getting the credit he deserves because a lot of people don't like him personally. But all that aside, you can't deny his talent. I mean, he's up there as a very top-level fighter. So yeah, that's my opinion. What's your opinion? Who do you think would win if they were to fight each other? And would you like to see that fight next? I would like to see it as soon as possible, truth be told, and I hope they can make that fight happen. But yeah, anyway, that's my point. Tell me your comments and thoughts below, and like and subscribe to the channel. I've got a lot more content coming your way. Peace out.